Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Aesthetic Impact Informational Services presentation of Lyn Buchanan Controlled Remote Viewing Analogies. Here just before Christmas, WebEx has given us a gift of an updated environment, and we're learning a little bit as we go, but Lyn and I are both on camera, which is new for us to be together at the same time, but here we are, and we have someone joining us from across the waters in Iceland. Welcome, Marco. I'm glad to see you, even though it's not exactly daylight, I don't think, where you are right now. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lyn. And welcome, and thank you for sharing all of your information with us, Lyn.
No problem. Glad to. Teresa had asked me tonight to go over the analogies, and so let me tell you that if you go to CRVviewer.com, our webpage comes up. If you look over on the right side, there is, down at the bottom, there is a section called Free Resources. And the third item down on that is Analogies. If you click on that, a page of analogies will come up that are used in controlled remote viewing to get across some of the theories and deeper meanings of things that aren't easily gotten across through just rules and protocols and regulations. And so if you look down on that, number 19, analogy number 19 is called the president of the company. And the president of the company is the main analogy for CRV because it explains the whole theory behind almost all the problems you're going to have in remote viewing and behind the whole process itself. And so the analogy is, let's say you're the president of the company. You have spent your lifetime doing everything right, getting in charge of your own life, getting in charge of your own company, and so forth. And let's say that now the owner of the company comes in and says, I'm going to put a kid in charge for a week, and so you need to step aside and let the kid run the company for the week. Well, your first response is, like hell, you know, that's not going to happen. And then the owner brings in your son, who is the kid that's going to be in charge of the company. Oh, well, now you want the kid to succeed. And so through the week, you help the kid. And let's say the kid comes up with some brand new ideas because he's got new eyes on the whole thing, and they're ideas that you should have thought of a long time ago. And so your response is going to be, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's wait until next week when I'm back in charge and we'll implement that. In other words, if the kid gets too good, you're going to hold him back a little because he's going to show you up. And if the kid isn't good enough, you're going to help him. Okay, in this analogy, let's say we move to the end of the week, and your son says to you one of two things. He's going to say, thanks, I failed, but only because you wouldn't let me do the job. Or he's going to say, I succeeded, but only because you wouldn't let me do the job. And either way, as a father, you lose. Okay? Well, the object in controlled remote viewing is let the kid run the company. Well, how are you going to do that? First of all, a lot of the different parapsychological methods say, okay, let's send the president on vacation for the week. Get him out of the office so the kid can run the company. And the analogy for that is they put you into a trance to get rid of your conscious mind and let the subconscious run the company. Well, that's a neat idea, but it doesn't work because, go back to the analogy, here's the president of the company laying on the beach in Maui, and there's his cell phone, and every so often he picks up his phone, calls back, and says, "Hey, Mabel, what's the kid doing now?" This is one of the reasons why you can't hypnotize someone to do something that they wouldn't normally do. If you're a trained CRV monitor and you watch a hypnosis session, it becomes very plain that the person under hypnosis is asleep and, you know, in a state and all that, but pops back in just to check and see what's going on. And so in remote viewing, it's the same way. The subconscious mind keeps popping back in and checking. And so to send the president of the company off on vacation is a neat idea, but it doesn't always work. Okay, the CRV idea is we're going to take the president of the company and put him down on the loading docks. Whatever the kid orders, his only job is to take it off the truck and stack it in the right place. Okay?
So, Lyn, the president is the conscious mind, and the kid is the subconscious mind.
Is the subconscious mind, right?
Okay. All right.
And so the CRV process splits your actual mind into two parts. And you've got the subconscious receiving the information, passing the questions out to the universe or wherever it passes the questions to, bringing the answers back in. You have the conscious mind always deciding what part of speech is this? What column do I put this information in? Is this a noun? Is this about me? Is this about the target? Is there something that says I should move the subconscious to another part of the target? And all the way through the session, your conscious mind is stacking the information in the right place into these different columns and making sure that the nouns go one place and the verbs and everything go another place. Now that sounds like a lot of work. The fact is, it is a lot of work for the conscious mind, and it gets the conscious mind doing something else. And as a result, the subconscious mind, who's the kid, can actually run the company. And that's what you're really after. And so the process that's involved in CRV is to keep the conscious mind so busy that it can't get in the kid's way. At the end of the week or at the end of the session, the subconscious mind can say, well, I don't think I did a good job, or I think I did a great job, which usually happens. But no matter what, the subconscious mind can say, but I did it myself. And that's what you're really after. And so this analogy of the president of the company actually explains what has to be done. And in CRV, we simply keep the conscious mind so busy with other things that the subconscious mind can run the company, can run the session. And that's the main analogy. Now we have other analogies that explain how we do that, the theories behind it, and so forth. If you go to CRVviewer.com and you look over on the right side under free resources, we have the analogies, and there are, let me back out over here, there are 22 of them at present. We have more that we hope to put up later. The web page also there on the front, under free resources, will have target of the week. I'm right now a year behind on these targets, but These are excellent targets for remote viewers of all levels. And if you're a beginner, if you're a rank beginner, never had a class of any kind or anything, they're still good targets for you. Many of the websites you go to that say we have remote viewing targets, their targets are extremely bad, especially for beginners. If you're trained, hey, no problem. But if you're a beginner just wanting to try it out, they're especially bad. A lot of them have strong emotions, murder and mayhem, police targets, and so on, that you don't want to throw an untrained person into. Our targets are extremely set up to where they're good targets, they're good remote viewing targets that will almost guarantee you a good result, because your subconscious mind can work with these targets. There's also another one called Phase 2 and Phase 4 practice, and in this, the idea is not to train you to remote view, but to describe what you remote view. And so what we do is we say, okay, here's a target. We show you the target, and then we say, okay, if you saw this in your mind, how would you describe it? And so you bring up the target, close it, describe it on paper, and then go back and look to see if your description matches the actual picture. And this gives you training, because in remote viewing, you tend to get flashes of information about the target. You get a flash, then you have to describe what you got, then you go back and get another flash. And so this Phase 2 and Phase 4 practice, that gives you practice and actually looking at a target, closing it away, there's your flash. You can look for it as long as you want to, add it as long as you want. But then you close it away and you sit there and describe what you just saw. It's really good practice. And it's actually a little harder than you might think. There's also a fact page and a video fact page. Fact is frequently asked questions. And the frequently asked questions page, I'm bringing it up here. Right now we have 18, 19, 20, 21, 24, 25. We have 25 frequently asked questions on there. Here again, we have a lot more that we can put up there, and we're hoping to get around to putting them up. I seem to be behind on most things these days.
And you're very ahead on others, okay?
Very ahead on others, yeah. Projects and things like that. The free resources, we also have terminology. Now, this terminology is not just for controlled remote viewing. This terminology works for any and all of the psi processes, dowsing, everything else. This terminology is actually good as a standardized terminology for the entire field of psychic work, remote viewing, just about any methodology that you use. And by the way, we distinguish between remote viewing and other methodologies, not because we think we're special, but simply because new people are always coming in. They're finding that they have abilities, and if you funnel everyone, if you call everything remote viewing and you funnel every new person into remote viewing, you may actually take them away from what their natural talent is. Maybe they're a good dowser. Maybe they're a good prognosticator, scryer. And so anyway, what we do is we separate the terms, and if a person calls me and they say, hey, I've been having this experience over and over, and it's not remote viewing, I will tend to send them to someone who deals with the talent that is developing within them. Anyway, we have these free resources on our website. It's CRVviewer.com. And if you go there, you'll find a lot of information about controlled remote viewing. You'll find a lot of information about what we do, some of the projects we do. We have questions, and we also have contact information, so that if you want to contact us with a question, just write us the question. I get about 150 emails a day, and so I may take a while to get back to you. This is why I'm so far behind on everything, but I will get back to you. So the analogies that we have are very, very useful. The one I really wanted to bring to you is the president of the company, because that one is key to the very heart of what controlled remote viewing actually is. And Teresa, Marco, did y'all have any questions of any kind?
I'm watching the texting box to see if Marco adds anything there. I think for me, what I really wanted to make sure that people who didn't know anything about remote viewing had some takeaway from this was that there's a clear definition between the subconscious and conscious minds, the roles that they play, and that the fact that there is a protocol and an algorithm structure that the president follows, that, you know, it's not automatic writing, it's not Madame Zoltar. There was actually a protocol developed in a lab at Stanford Research Institute that the conscious mind is to be kept busy so the subconscious mind can do its work. And it's the subconscious is the conscious, or is the mechanism for bringing in the data, and the conscious mind needs to record it. And that's what the protocols are about, and that's why control remote viewing is different than other forms and other methodologies.
Right. The main difference, I think, is that in order to do the other methodologies, you have to have a talent and a skill for them. In controlled remote viewing, this was devised at Stanford Research Institute, like Teresa said, for just the dumbest grunt soldier on the battlefield. And the idea was to get one soldier out of every unit, train them to do this work so that they could go back to their unit and they could tell their commander what was over the hill, where to point the guns, and all that. Now, this was a military thing. And so controlled remote viewing was developed for the military. Now it's out of the military into the civilian arena. We're using it for police departments. We're using it for archaeologists, for businesses. Teresa has found an extremely good use for it in nursing. The uses of it are just about endless because it is an information gathering service that anybody can do. And so it doesn't require a psychic. It requires a person to just learn the methodology, which is developed on psychological principles and also the principles of the martial art. And this has been called repeatedly by many people the martial art of the mind. And it teaches you how to access information through your subconscious mind. A lot of people ask, where does the information come from? Everybody will tell you their theory. The fact is, we don't know. And the fact is, we don't care. If you can help us bring home a missing kid, hey, got chickens for all I care, you know. But the fact is that this protocol will help just the average person on the street to access information that they can't get any other way. This is better than the internet. This is the internet of the mind. Any other comments, Teresa? Or
No, I don't think I have any. Like I said, I have friends who are asking, they think you have to be really special to do this, or that it's so far above them that they can't understand it. And I said, no, break it down to its introductory parts. You have two minds. Get them to talk to each other. There's a way.
We have very simplified ways. Like I say, this was developed for the dumbest grunt soldier on the battlefield. And so we have very simplified ways to teach everyone. You don't have to be a dumb grunt soldier to learn it. But even if you are, it's set up to teach to anybody.
Right. So I think that's it. Essentially, controlled remote viewing is recording of sensory perceptions across time and space. And anything that you'd like to expand upon that statement, and I can't think of anything else that I'd like to bring up, really.
Okay, I think Marco was trying to ask a question or something. He may want to type it in if his microphone's not working.
Okay, he was typing before, and when we were testing our new environment here. And I'm not seeing anything from him.
Okay. But the bottom line is, if you are listening to this and you have any questions, CRVviewer.com, or you can also go to Aesthetic Impact, contact Teresa. She's very well educated in this discipline, and can answer most of the questions too, if not all.
Okay. No, definitely not all. I'm not you. Anyway, thank you very much. Oh, there we go, Marco. Don't you see my questions? No, sir. We are not. If you've been putting them into question and answers,
it's not there either.
It's not. No, we're not seeing them. But I just saw your question. Don't you see my questions? So could you please type in your questions the way you just did this one, and we'll be off and running. How can we make people realize that they can do it? That was another reason that I brought this meeting up with Lyn today.
We used to have, well, we had to be funded every year. This was not one of those military projects that was put into existence and kept going. We had to qualify for new funding on a year-by-year basis. We had to prove to Congress that we were doing successful work, that we were getting information that no other military intelligence group could get, and all that. One of the ways that we would prove ourselves is we would say, we'll pick a target, and it'll be in a sealed envelope, and one of the senators or congressmen would come by. We would give them a quick training session, sit them down at the table, and have them remote view it. Listen, there is nothing like doing it yourself to convince you. There was this one senator that came in and said that he didn't believe this, he didn't want to fund it, so we did that with him. And at the end, he was looking at the session and looking at the feedback saying, damn. And we got funded for that year.
Well, there's nothing like doing a session, and the target has to be a real world place.
Yeah,
and just so people understand that.
Yeah,
Something
a lot of trainers out there give you Melchizedek on the planet Scooby-Doo or something like that, you know, and no matter what you get, they're going to pat you on the back and say, oh yeah, you're a great remote viewer, pay me the money and for the class. And don't fall for that. It has to be a real world target, and the more immediate the feedback, the better, which is why, you know, you have someone take a real honest site, not a photoshopped picture, but a real honest site, put it into an envelope and try it. Now, if you want to try it without the embarrassment of, you know, possible failure and all, go to the website, go to the free resources, go to Target of the Week, and we have right now about 250 targets there. You can select one, and it won't show you the picture immediately. It'll tell you give you some numbers. You write the numbers down, and then start getting whatever comes to mind. Whatever comes to mind, write it down, whether it makes sense or not. At the end of that, go back, click that same button again. There's another button that says See the Feedback. Okay? You click on that, it shows you the picture. You can take what you wrote down, look at the picture, and see how you did. There's no embarrassment. Do it in the privacy of your own home, and we don't record who comes to the site. We don't record. We don't keep track of anything, and so this is a free resource for you to just try it out, see what happens. I think you'll be surprised.
All right, they could just do that freestyle, and then there's formalized training with various people if they wanted to pursue it and learn the protocols and the algorithms and the theory and so on and so forth.
And here again, let me give you a caution. There are a lot of crackpot teachers out there. There are a lot of untrained teachers out there. They'll go through somebody's basic course, and all of a sudden they think, oh, I can get a lot of money by teaching this to somebody else, when they're not even prepared to do it themselves fully. And so you have to be very careful. When all of this came out to the public, because it was declassified, just about everyone in every psychic field started calling themselves remote viewers and teaching classes. And so you may go to one and it'll say, they'll say, oh, here's how you do remote viewing. You lie down on a pallet, close your eyes, and take a nap for a while. Another one will say, here's how you do remote viewing. You take a pendulum and you do this. No, look for controlled remote viewing. That is the science that was developed by the U.S. military and is now moved over into the civilian arena for civilian use. There are 1,000 things listed as remote viewing. Generally ignore them. Look for controlled remote viewing, and there are several teachers who are teaching controlled remote viewing, several of whom were remote viewers, controlled remote viewers for the U.S. military. So there's good training to be had. There's also some pretty disastrous training to be had. So before you lay down a single penny, do your homework. See if the person that's teaching the course is qualified.
Margot has another question. I find that a lot of people are interested in sci-fi, but not a lot of people are ready for this quantum leap that we can do it, meaning remote viewing. Why is that so? Any leap is, you know, any leap, everybody wants to look before they leap. That's understandable, and it's the advice, well, it's the advice I just gave. And so, you know, if you want to see if you can do it, hey, bring up the website, bring up some of the targets, try it, see what happens. If then you want to get training, look at the trainers, see if they're qualified, see what they're actually teaching. And so if you do this in a good way, in a logical manner, and in an educated way, there's no reason to be afraid of it. Now, as far as you being afraid of it, I say, hey, look before you leap. That kind of fear is good. As far as other people, I think you can realize very quickly that with this technology, there are no more secrets. And a lot of people, like politicians and so on,
They're afraid because they need their secrets and so on. And so there are a lot of people who will actively fight against remote viewing, controlled remote viewing especially, simply because they're afraid that somebody else has it. And, you know, if you run a company or something, hey, your competition is going to get this. You better get it too. Marco says, how long does it take to get results? We have people who get results on the first day. In order to become professional about it, I'll be honest with you, it's going to take a year of hard work. Now, what we do in our training that we give, my company, PSI, we stay with you. We database your work. We analyze your work. We try to get you involved in more and more sessions, and whenever you come to a class and you pay for that class, you can come back to that class again for a refresher as many times as you want to for the rest of your life for absolutely no cost, because it does take a long time and people do get rusty. And so we say, hey, come on back, you know. How long does it take to get results? Same question typed in twice. And so it's going to be some work. It's a lot of work learning how your mind works. There are benefits to this beyond remote viewing. The benefits are that as you learn to let your subconscious mind and your conscious mind have communication, clear communication with each other, it opens up a whole lot more than just spying techniques or something like that. Your subconscious mind knows why you do those things you don't want to do, but you wind up doing them anyway. It knows why you don't do the things you want to do, but you wind up not doing them anyway. And it knows what your phone number was when you were 3 years old, where your car keys are, and so on. And so the benefits to you as a person, this is a lot of work. I would never sell it as a self-help course, but the benefits that you get from it personally are just beyond describing. Look into it. Even if you don't want to do it, look into it to see what it really is. If you depend on the television and, you know, and radio, late night talk shows and all that to tell you what remote viewing is, controlled remote viewing is, you're just going to get sound bites that are 99% incorrect. So look into it and see if it's for you.
With CRV, can you start using more of your subconscious power? Power, or I don't like the word enlightenment either.
Well,
you can make informed decisions.
Well, I think the key words in this question here is start using, and the answer is absolutely yes. Not only you can start using it, you automatically will. When you set up that line of communications with your subconscious mind, hey, it's got information on a moment-by-moment basis. You step off a curb, you will know automatically you better get back up on that curb because there's some danger in traffic or something like that. You walk into a room, you will automatically know because your subconscious will be there telling you there's danger, or this is a nice place, or this is a place where somebody's mad, watch your step, things like that. You will start knowing the world around you, and it's not so much that you start using it, you're going to use it. I mean, your subconscious is there, and it's been waiting your entire life to be listened to. Once you set up that line of communications with it, it's going to start talking.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of any more questions. Marco brought up some good points.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and just so you know, I'm trying to think of something for people to compare this to. When Marco said, how long does it take to get results? As you said,
it's a
once you're And one of your things that you teach us immediately is the reason that you work a target, and we just call, that's the military term for a real-world place. Yeah. And so it's just called target, and that's the language. But whenever you do a session or work a target, it isn't to learn about the target, it's to learn about yourself.
It's to learn how
your two minds work and communicate. You can see results in that way immediately in the first month, in the first week. But to become really proficient and professional, you might as well say you're going to college. Yeah. It takes a while. You know, you don't become a tennis pro overnight or a basketball pro. It takes a while of practice, and so I would like to give people the realistic outcome and expectation of that. So.
Right. In our basic class, we teach people how to describe pictures and text that are inside a sealed envelope before they ever open it. But we tell them, don't go out and try to save the world. You're not ready yet. you got a little more training to go.
That's right. You can't learn this in a weekend. Go ahead.
If I learned how my mind works, then probably I don't need to see a shrink anymore. One of the things we have found is that shrinks, by and large, are not ready for this. Now, they will describe this as, I don't know, some kind of, the minute you say remote viewing, they're going to pull out their textbook thing. However, we have had a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists and psychotherapists come for training, and without exception, we can say that they now have a totally new understanding of their own trade because they have a totally new understanding of the mind, and it works. We have, I gave a talk at a conference one time about how a monitor can pull information out of the viewer without polluting the process, and they took it and they said, okay, this is exactly how a psychiatrist can pull information out of a patient's subconscious without leading them and polluting the process and all that. And it has actually become a part of some of the psychiatric treatments that people are giving to mentally disturbed patients or patients who need it. And so this is a basic understanding of the human mind. You're learning about your own mind here, and that's going to take a while, but listen, it is so worth it.
Actually, I've been getting some contacts from counselors and a couple of psychiatrists going, hey, what have you learned? This, you know, changes what I thought I knew. And yeah, it's not necessarily that there's something that they use in the office every day, but it's more like, hey, somebody got a grant and studied this, and what did they learn? And so, yeah. Anyway. So.
One of the people at the conference that I gave the lecture to on how to monitor a remote viewer came back the following year. She had been working on a rare but a real multiple personality case with a multiple personality patient. She'd been working on this patient for 6 years and was making a little headway. She came back the following year and said that in that year, using the methods that I had put forth, the person was now cured. And it was an astounding thing. I think she wrote up several papers about it and so forth. You know, do you need to see a shrink anymore?
Of course, you can't. This was an information gathering tool. It was never supposed to be the only one thing.
Right.
You know, and it was an assistive thing. So.
Right. And the fact is that understanding yourself fully doesn't mean you're going to agree with what you understand. So, yeah, if you've got the need for a shrink, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's no different than a surgeon. If you need to see a surgeon, you see a surgeon. If you need to see a psychiatrist, you see a psychiatrist.
Don't go to Peru for a psychic surgeon.
Yeah, this is only additional information that, you know, isn't for the most part well publicized. And so I'm happy to teach people that it exists so they can explore it on their own and see what they can do with it.
Right. Marco said, can you say that, he's coming with questions faster than we can. Can you say that with CRV you can do good and harm? The question is one of, well, the answer is yes. But the question was asked to me one time by Navy Admiral. And I said, okay, we can save soldiers' lives. That's good. But the enemy would say that's bad because they want our soldiers killed. And so the question of whether something is good or bad is often in the eyes of the beholder, not an absolute. But can you hurt people with this? Yes, you can. And one of the things that we teach as we teach the controlled remote viewing is that it's very real, the saying that what goes around comes around. If you hurt others, you will wind up hurting yourself. If you help others, you will wind up helping yourself. And this is very real when it comes to controlled remote viewing. And so we warn people that way. Can you harm yourself with CRV? Mainly by harming others. I don't think I've ever seen anybody harm themselves with CRV that I know of. But know thyself. Hey, that may disappoint you a lot, but it's not going to hurt. Okay.
One thing I could like to say about doing good and harm with it, it brings us back to, hey, I can learn to do this in a weekend, and then you run out and you are the person who, hey, are all that in a bag of chips and I'm here to save the world, and so you get some really junky, totally wrong stuff and you put yourself forth as an expert and you make everybody look bad. So if you don't know what you're doing, and yes, you can harm everybody just through misinformation.
Yeah, and don't try to learn CRV. Don't try to learn remote viewing from the internet. The analogy we use there is you can learn karate from the internet. Just don't go get in a fight right afterwards because you're going to lose. You know, it's not going to happen. And so it's the same way if you get on the internet and try to get information from everybody who calls themselves a remote viewer so that you can learn remote viewing, you're just going to wind up messed up. Just like if you try for a martial art, you go to a dojo. You get professional trainer. There are a lot of good professional trainers out there. Be careful because there are a lot of bad ones, just like there are a lot of bad dojos. But please don't try to learn remote viewing from the internet. It's just chaos, and it's just it's a bad thing waiting to happen to you.
Well, I think we've kind of strayed a little bit from control remote viewing analogies, but we've asked some hard questions that,
that's good.
You know, yeah. You know, you have to be honest. You have to show the good and the bad, the black and the white, and there's no sense in trying to keep things kind of sheltered and back because it's going to come out in the end anyway.
Right.
So,
and Marco made a comment here that is very true. But here again, I would separate remote viewing from controlled remote viewing. Remote viewing is largely taught by many people as a toy. By others, it's taught as a way to figure out where the missing kid is, and then you go out and trample the crime scene, and you get the police mad at you and mess up any evidence they have and all that. And there are a lot of bad trainers and bad just ill-informed and uneducated people out there calling themselves remote viewers. The fact is that controlled remote viewing, this is not a toy, it is the real thing. And it was used to bring home soldiers, it was used to save lives, it's been used since to save companies, to save money for companies, to do space research, to do archaeological work. We can say to an archaeologist, don't dig there, dig here, with great success. And this is the real thing. This isn't a toy, and it very is true that it's the real thing. Good comment there, Marco.
Well, I do think we probably should be considering wrapping it up. It's about an hour or so.
Yeah.
And I think we just lost Marco. People tend to be busy, and much more than an hour is more time than they have to spend. So I think we should probably wrap it up, and if we want to revisit this, come back another time. Thanks, Lyn. We really appreciate your sharing everything, and there are many people who are thanking us who can't be with us due to work or family, but they can listen then to the recordings when they have time. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.